What's up everyone, Howie here at Law Records. Today I'm going to show you 5 tips for creating powerful hard techno and Schranz kicks that hit hard, stay punchy throughout mastering and also translate properly in the mix. If you'd like these exact kicks and project file, it's available on my Patreon. Thanks to everyone who's supporting the channel. Let's get into it. Before we start, here are a few examples of processed and layered kicks so you know exactly what we're aiming for. These are from my Kick Foundation sample pack. They're punchy, full and loud without falling apart when pushed. So how do we actually achieve that? Tip 1 is to make sure the attack is louder than the tail. So let's play this kick and pull up an oscilloscope. I use duck as a really good one in it. Notice the transient slightly exceeds the tail before decaying. This is important because when your kick hits a limiter or clipper on your master chain, you want the transient to be the thing that gets controlled first. If the subtail is pushing harder into the limiter reacts to that low end before the punch arrives. The result is usually a soft, distorted, flabby kick that struggles to cut through the mix. Let me show you an example. I'm going to push this kick with this great big tail and kind of small attack into this limiter. Okay, I'm overdoing it slightly, but you can hear that muffled attack, bit of distortion. It almost sounds like it's got 2 kicks. It's just quite weak. When you compare it to something like this, or this, or this. It is possible to fix this with the transient designer. So let's use this kilohertz transient shaper, and we're going to try and put that attack back in. Before, after. Huge difference. The kick instantly feels tighter, punchier, and much more capable of surviving the mastering chain. Tip number 2 is to layer kicks to fill in what's missing. Very few kicks do everything perfectly on their own. For example, this kick has a great low end but lacks attack. So I added this top kick to bring that mid-range and top end back in. When you play them together, without the top kick, most of the time 2 kicks are enough, one for the body and one for the top end attack of the kick. Occasionally I'll use a third layer if I need something specific in the mids. A good starting point is to high pass the top layer between 100 and 200 Hz. Use the steepest filter possible. Then you can spend a little time adjusting the start point of each layer to get the best phase alignment. Even a few milliseconds can create a huge difference. I'm going to do a follow-up video on how to process the whole group, but for now let's move on to tip 3, which is pay attention to waveform shape. A lot of kicks, even from major sample companies, have waveform issues that make them harder to mix and master. Here are a few things to watch out for. First, large dips and inconsistent peaks. You see this huge dip after the attack? That's going to create a really strange sound when it's played live. This one. All of the attack is coming in way too late. It needs to have impact from the word go. You want that bass coming in pretty soon, if not immediately after the attack. Ideally, you want the lows, mids and highs to all come in at the same time, maybe with the sub just slightly delayed to give a bit more room. What you don't want is the attack, then a gap, then bass. You'll also occasionally see these asymmetric waveforms, which look a bit like this. You see how the positive and negative side is different? This can actually reduce your headroom and it definitely makes it harder to mix and harder to do transient control. A little asymmetry is normal and often comes from processors like tape, but too much can reduce headroom and make it feel less solid. If a kick looks quite uneven, it's usually better just to find a new sample rather than spend ages trying to fix it. Tip 4 is don't over-distort your kicks. Hard techno kicks need aggression, but there's a point where distortion starts working against you. Listen to these examples. On its own it might sound okay, but notice how the waveform becomes really messy and the attack loses definition. Too much distortion destroys the transient and turns it into a wall of noise. It can be great if you're making hardstyle, but for hard techno and Schranz, you generally want defined punch followed by a controlled, aggressive tail. The goal isn't maximum distortion, it's maximum impact. That's going to cut through much better. The last tip is this can go the other way, and you must make sure the kick has rich harmonic content. A kick can be clean and controlled but still sound weak if there's not enough harmonic information. Let's listen to this one. The attack is thin, the tail is mostly a sine wave, and the perceived loudness is low even though the sub is there. I've added some saturation and some transient shaper to try and improve this. It's not perfect, but it's added some harmonics in and brought up that perceived loudness. And that's it. If you can nail these 5 areas, transient balance, layering, waveform consistency, controlled distortion, and harmonic content, your kicks will hit harder, survive processing better, and sit in the mix much more easily. If you like these exact kicks, you can find them on my Patreon. And if you want a larger collection, you can check out Kick Foundations on my website. It has 50 kicks, 50 rumbles, and 50 kick and rumble loops. So you can easily just drag that and drop, and you won't even need to process. It will be perfectly in balance. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.